The Tuesday, July 16th meeting of the Douglas Board of Selectmen. This meeting is being recorded and will be on Douglas Cable Access on their YouTube channel. Hit that like, hit that follow. Let's get those numbers up. We'll stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I have no announcements today other than a quick congratulations to Ethan Mulder, who's a proud DHS graduate. He was the winner of the July 4th winner hot dog dinner, hot dog eating contest. It was held in some parts of Douglas, and we want to congratulate him.
How many did he eat?
There was the rules of the game, if we're going to go that far out, was they were over 21, 6 beers and, no, 6 hot dogs and a beer.
Beers.
For the winner.
So interesting, but not so impressive, you know?
No, it wasn't. Someone had to foot the bill for the
Yeah.
hot dogs. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to something that's not on the agenda? Seeing none. First item, Matt, is a ZBA appointment where we just received a packet or a letter from our council. I have questions here. Could you just explain this a little bit?
Well, my duty is to get the board information about the decisions before it. So there was some discussion regarding the appointment of different select board members to other boards of the town, specifically at the moment the ZBA, but there are other boards as well. And so rather than casting about, trying to interpret it ourselves, we sent it to Rich Bowen. Rich Bowen is your advisor on these matters. Frankly, I think you should give him more weight even than the Ethics Commission. I think there are times when the Ethics Commission takes a very conservative view and they don't want to give anybody any guidance, and they'll specifically tell you this is not legal advice. For legal advice, talk to your town council. So this went to town council, and his interpretation of the ethics rules as they apply to specifically the zoning board and appointment of members to the zoning board under section chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws. So there's the guidance there that you've been given by council. Just as a backdrop for folks, because I don't know that very many people are aware of the rules, for towns with fewer than 10,000 people, the Massachusetts general laws contemplate that you would have difficulty populating boards and commissions, and even some paid positions, if the select board were completely ruled out from being able to participate. And so, by definition, the members of the select board of a town of less than 10,000 people are so-called special employees who are exempted from many of the provisions of the ethics law. The town of Douglas has also adopted or made the zoning board members special employees. So and I think you've done that for a couple other boards. I'm thinking specifically maybe
The what?
Capital and Board of Health.
I'm not sure. Zoning was done in 1990.
So there's more than one. And it's a understanding of the simple, practical reality that it is difficult to get volunteers who want to serve in these capacities, who have the knowledge or the flexibility in their schedule to be able to round out the responsibilities of the board. And what we face, the only part that the administration has in this, is that we are charged with the orderly progression of the work of the town. So it is always our recommendation, our hope, that the select board will find a way to make sure that all the seats are filled on boards and commissions so that applicants can get the customer service that they deserve, have their due process rights honored by a full hearing with the requisite number of board members in a publicly, properly posted meeting so that we can move along. But other than that, we don't have a dog in the fight other than to provide you with the best possible information.
So my understanding is ZBA, and Mike, you're on it, you voted to support the application of Margaret Bacon. seconds later, they voted favorably to support Les's application, except on our agenda, we only have Margaret Bacon's, and my understanding is there's an alternate that typically will ascend to the top. And now, most times with appointments to boards, we kind of rubber stamp this, but this gets a little wonky, and I want to make certain that we're approaching this correctly.
Through the chair, yeah, I think James Palmer, being promoted from an alternate to a full member, is probably the first step, because he's been there.
Before we get into too much of that discussion, I can share with you for transparency, I'm the vice chairman of that board as well. So I had a discussion with the chairman of that board, and brought it to his attention that Jim is actually an alternate. It was just an oversight because we've been running so thin for so long, you just automatically assume everybody's members. He's never missed a meeting, he's always participated, so the question of an alternate versus regular member never comes up because you've always been understaffed on that particular board. So my understanding is he's putting it onto the next agenda for the ZBA to make the recommendation from that board to this board to move him up to a full member. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on this letter to help everybody understand how this even originated. When I got elected to the select board, because I was already on zoning, I had joined zoning in 2013, I called ethics. I said, told them I'm on capital, I'm on zoning. I don't think I was still on building and facilities at that point, but I was on those two boards, and I explained it to them. I said, do I need to resign those boards? Because when in doubt, I always call them up to make sure I'm not in a violation of ethics. And they said, because I was already on those and the special employee thing, I could remain on that as long as I wanted to. Right? It has a case of not wanting, whether I want to or not, there's a need for it, that's why I'm still on it. If it was a full board, I would gladly step off it because my plate's a little full at times. So anyways, this came up, and when Les came to one of our meetings, I had suggested to him to call ethics because of what they had told me at that point is if I tried to do it in reverse, get on the board after I was on the select board, I couldn't do it. That's what they told me back 3 years ago, so whenever it is that I ran. So I made Les aware of that, and I actually sent him the ethics number to call. Les came to our meeting, and he said that he had called, and they said that they had no problem. When I called ethics, they had called me back, and the woman there had referred to Mass General Laws 268A, Section 21A, and went on to this big, long explanation that for us to appoint another member of our board to the zoning board, we couldn't do it if we supervise the zoning board. So I'm like, I don't know if we supervise the zoning board or not. We appoint them, we remove them, and we have a code of conduct. So I talked to the administrator about it, and the safest thing he felt to do was to reach out to town council and get an independent opinion. And Rich's opinion came back that because a zoning board operates under 40A, we do not supervise them, which I was fine with that answer. And that's how this letter came about. Not for obstruction or anything else, just to make sure that we're clean and we're doing the right thing.
So with that, I would probably, when are you meeting again, ZBA?
We meet, the first Wednesday of the month, so.
All right. So why don't we allow ZBA to get its house in order and give us a recommendation on what they want, and we'll pick this up at our first meeting.
Yeah.
You okay with that?
And
Ross?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
All right, let's do that. Go ahead, Mike, quick.
well, what I'm asking is, so what's that mean with the appointment of Margaret? That's a 5-member board with 2 alternates.
Right.
So-
My understanding is you have at least one, maybe two alternates. You had Mr. Stevens' application before Mrs. Bacon's. So what I'm looking for is direction from the board as to, the ZBA, as to what
Okay.
it would like to do
You
before
would
we,
best get that from the chairman.
I'll speak with
We
him.
have 3 full-time members.
It's a good problem, yeah. We're going to have,
And we need to get to 5, and then potentially have 2 alternates.
Correct.
yeah. So, great. Anything else on number 5? Moving on to 6, my understanding is they are not a
Are you
bit,
appointing Margaret?
I'm going to hold off until the next meeting.
Until next.
Yeah, we'll do it all in one swoop.
Margaret's in the audience.
Margaret, come on in.
No, Margaret's right over there.
Oh, Margaret, come on up. I didn't realize you were there. So we're not going to act on your application today. As a member, I just want to administratively tell you that this has absolutely nothing to do with you and your qualifications.
I understand.
Okay.
Thank you for your service, too, by the way.
Yeah, well, like I say, I'm getting to a point in my career where I'm trying to wind down the business, which allows me, additional time and, to give back to the town of Douglas. I do have a lot of experience in Douglas. Had an engineering company for the past 20 years, and I've done a lot of work in Douglas. So I pretty much know the rules and the zoning and the wetland regulations and all that. So I think I would be a good candidate for the ZBA.
I don't disagree.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll wait to hear back from you, and if you need me to come back in again, I will.
Great. Thank you, Margaret.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Jen and I will be in touch.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Yep.
My understanding is number 6 has been tabled to the August 6th meeting. That leads us to 301 Northwest Main Street, a discussion as a follow-up.
Couldn't hear.
Yeah, please come up. Good evening.
Hi.
Go ahead, Matt. You want to paint a picture?
No, Mr. Chairman, we met with the White Reservoir Watershed District last Thursday, and there were 2 questions that they had asked. One was about the water, and are they okay with the water going into the catch basin, into their watershed? They had no issues with it, and they gave us an email. I believe it might be in your packets, but, okay. And it's saying that that's part of their overall watershed, so they have no issue with the water itself. But what they did recommend also was for the commission to consider a future repair of the catch basin of the pipe that goes under the ground. From what we understand, it's a corrugated metal pipe, the entire bottom is rotted out, but it's regularly getting blocked up. Ms. Fulgenetti has been, I guess, the caretaker of this thing, and anytime it blocks up, she's out there cleaning it out, and, it's constantly getting backed up and going over the dam. So they would like us to consider a future repair, whether it's Chapter 90 or a capital item for FY '25 or as soon as possible. So it's kind of morphed into something additional. But the main question was, were they okay with the water going into the basin? And yes, they are.
What are you looking for us today, other than an update as to satisfaction?
I guess it's kind of on the board for whether or not her, right now her trench discharges into the roadway. I guess the idea was the trench was to be backed up into the yard, or she proposed something else that would not be within the right-of-way and go directly into the catch basin. And this board asked if, me to check with the watershed district to make sure the water was acceptable to them, and it turns out that it is.
Are we wearing the highway commissioner hat for that? Or is that?
It's outside our road, right away, though, correct?
No.
It will be when it gets pushed back.
The
It's-
potential change of the water going across the yard into that catch basin, is that catch basin within the right of way?
It is.
It is, okay.
Yep. It's right at the edge of the right-of-way, right in our driveway. Yeah.
You would like a motion to approve it, I guess is all.
Well, clearly not an engineer, but from taking care of that drain for all these years. The top needs to be bigger. It can't, the silt that comes down the road is not from my land. It's from up the road. And I told, who did I tell? The last people, the watershed people. I have no idea where it's coming from because I go out after a storm to try and figure it out. But it just comes streaming down, and it's been bad since 2016. And the last big storm, it was absolutely awful. Again, I can't tell you where it's from, because if you stand in the road and you go up, it just doesn't make sense. But where my water was coming from wasn't making sense either. Like, you can't always tell where the water's coming from. That's what I've learned in the last 3 years. So, I don't shovel in when there's ice or in the winter or snow. And I've heard that people have a problem with the ice then. Well, I can't shovel. The plow is probably at least 2 feet away from the drain, so it's either frozen or something. So when you do get around to it, I would just suggest putting the drain into the road a bit. I don't know how the road has changed over 47 years when the drain was put in, but it's just not out far enough to catch what's coming down.
That makes sense. Is that well within the purview of our extremely handy and quite capable highway guys?
This is a close one. I don't know if we'll task Stantec or anybody else with engineering this. I have a hunch we probably should, given the proximity of the reds, where this water's going to go. But as for the actual work, we do quite a bit of this.
Yeah. Right.
What do we need to move this forward?
And one other thing, the water stopped finally from the trench that I don't want to put another trench in, because if I put another trench in, it's about 10 feet from the road, and then it will go down in a V to 0 to the drain. So I said I'd put a trench in because I thought it was going on forever, but, so I guess that's what you decide. But I would vote against it if I was.
That's not helping you. But, Mr. Chairman, are you familiar with the last conversation?
I think I was remote Zoom, so I'm kind of flying by my seat of my pants here.
The issue that we have is the water's running right along the edge of the asphalt with the yard. So right now, it's not a problem, but in the wintertime, it's going to be a big problem with ice over there. So, let me finish, please. When they came in the last time, they were going to move it, she was going to move it in 10 feet to get it out of the right-of-way to go down into the culvert. So the only thing that was left for us to decide on, because I was asking Mr. Benoit what he was looking for us to do for him. So if he's outside of our jurisdiction right away, then there was nothing. So now the catch basin, they've gotten clearance to allow it to go into the reservoir. I think at least we should be allowing them to take that water, get it back away from the street, because that's going to be a problem come winter. And then in the meantime, have the town administrator and the highway superintendent and Mr. Benoit look into it and see what they can do to resolve the issue that she's talking about. But one thing that I did catch that she said, that when they plow the snow, it's about 2 feet away from the catch basin. If you move it towards the street, you're going to put it underneath the snowbank. So then it's going to be a bigger problem. So just a little bit of evaluation needs to happen with that. But I would suggest that we probably authorize her to get that away from the road so they can start that process. Because that's what was asked the last time they were in here. And this drain issue being larger and moving has become a different issue than what we were faced with first.
Well, water experts, we are not, so
No.
I'm looking for staff and
Yep.
direction.
The only motion that you need tonight is that you're willing to accept this water into your stormwater management system.
Yeah.
Because it's been cleared by the people on the outfall end,
Yeah.
and Concom has said it's clean.
That's fine.
And to get it out of the roadway. Yep.
So one issue is that there's a large tree, just like in where this proposed trench out of the roadway would go. There's a very, very large tree right there, and I think most of the tree might be in the right-of-way. I don't know if highway would be taking that down. I'm not sure how that works.
The way that works is we find a way not to cut the tree down.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why we have engineers.
But large tree will have large roots. And
Well, fortunately, we're in July, so we have a little bit of time. But I think it's an urgent thing that needs to be looked at. What I'm concerned about is, the last time it was a simple thing about moving the trench. Now, all right, now the drain has to move, and now there's a tree in the way. There's no plan. Somebody has to create some sort of plan and do this properly. And so I've changed my thought about trying to just move it forward and give the allowance. They have to come up with a better plan, because it's and. So we need to get to a point where you have a good plan so we can solve that issue. That's a big problem down there. This has been before us in the past few years, building berms and everything else because of the water issues down there.
Go ahead.
That's Mr. Chairman.
So what I did hear the watershed chairman say, that they were willing to support what needed to be done to fix it. And the other thing, I can't stress it enough. I know when I had that trench built and the water was there, how everything looked, but the more I pay attention to what's going on, the problem in the street has existed before I put any water into it. And it's existed for many years, but horribly since 2016. And that's when I started talking to the highway department. And they were responsive. It took a while. But me doing a trench, it isn't really going to fix anything. It just isn't. I know it isn't. I've lived with that situation for 47 years.
The issue at hand is that the existing conditions on the road, is what was created by bringing, digging a trench and filling it with three-quarter stone and bringing it down to the road. So that's what we're trying to do, is stop that new problem that created. We know that there's an existing problem there.
Right.
And that's what I had just spoke about. We're trying to eliminate making that even worse. Come with the time, it's going to be a huge problem. So
I know that. I just think
we're trying to help you, believe it or not. So I think with Mr. Benoit, the town administrator, and the highway superintendent, at least we can look at it and come up with a better plan as to what it is. Your property, we have no control over your property, but what's out in the street, we got to look at and make sure that we don't cause a bigger problem.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to cause
That's
a
all.
bigger
I'm
problem.
not trying to be difficult, trying to help you.
Just my take-home so far is that we don't have an environmental issue. We have more of a,
I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
we don't have an environmental issue. This is more of a water management.
Safety.
Road
Forward-thinking,
management, right, yeah.
collaborative effort that will only happen in the days and weeks before the first ice storm.
If I may. So it seems as though if we're going to ask the highway to do a redesign of some sort of stormwater management system, they're likely going to put a swale right out in front of Miss Fulginiti's property. And I understand that she's going to be trenching her spring into the catch basin anyway, and then we're going to come and then we're going to put a swale there anyway. That's very likely that's what's going to happen here. So kind of asking her to do something, and then we're going to put a swale out front anyway. I'm just curious how that's going
Well,
to,
and I don't
that's
think-
what Mike was saying, we
I think
kinda-
we had changed it. We weren't asking him to do something,
Yeah.
was to actually go back and get a better plan as to
Right.
what to do. To
Yeah.
assume that there's going to be a swale, or we're taking a tree down, or
Yeah.
moving the storm drain, we're all guessing,
Yeah.
right? We're all sitting here, we're not on Northwest Main Street.
right.
I think if we have it properly looked at, you'll come up with a good plan that'll solve the issue,
Okay.
or reduce the issue, I guess. It might
Yeah.
never be solved.
And
That's a
Do we need a
problem.
vote on the environmental issue, or just wait till it comes back as a plan as to,
You know, if it comes back with the drawing, then you can authorize the
yeah, at the same time?
acceptance of
It
the.
may make more sense, Hal,
Yeah.
because there's no urgency.
Yeah.
We already have, they
Yeah.
have permission from the
We
water.
basically want to help you out, I think, and I think.
Yeah, I hear that.
Just a
And
question
I'm
of-
for the best solution.
Yeah.
I am. I have one other issue. I'm female, and I am very often excluded from any discussion. And I would like to be included when discussion, because I know more than anyone. 47 years.
Yeah, I am convinced Mr. Benoit and Mr. Furno at the highway will seek your
Yeah.
advice and guidance as they walk the grounds and
And they've been wonderful.
Yeah.
They've been wonderful.
and let us
Before you
know if
come
that's
back,
not the
they'll
case.
Get your input.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would be the next. I think with everyone, we can make this happen.
Thank you.
So we're looking to seek a quote from Stantec? Is that kind of what we're looking for here?
Let's just.
That's between you, the
That's it.
administrator, and the highway, and you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have anything in our budget, so you can't give us a quote on anything.
Right. Understood. Okay,
Okay?
very well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 8 is our minutes. What do we have here? June 18 meeting minutes? I was in Nashville, so I'll accept a motion in a second when you're ready.
Make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 18th, 2024 as written.
I'll second the motion.
Made by Mike, seconded by Les. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
One abstention, myself.
Both of them do it at the same time.
We are on to the town administrator and board of selectmen goals. And before I steal your thunder with your list, I just wanted to frame why I put the board of selectmen piece in that too. And that's largely because a lot of what ends up on Matt's town administrator list are ideas that the selectmen think are worthy of being on the list, that may be long-term goals, may be short-term goals, but they're goals nonetheless. And I would encourage you, as we discuss Matt's work product here,
Be a reference to the board's goals.
yeah, to include, we could do what, we can let Matt go, or we can go around the table now and just rattle off a couple goals that someone might have, and maybe we can incorporate that in to this document, or put it on for another or future agenda. It's pretty fluid, but I'll start by saying my goal as chairman of this board is to make each and every one of you and this board and all staff very successful. And that's how I'm approaching what we're doing here. So fire away. Anyone have any ideas they might want to discuss? Ross?
Just taking my
Wheels are turning still?
Wheels are
Yeah.
turning.
Oh, and that's, this is fluid, Ross. Whenever there's ideas, you let them out.
Maybe it's already identified, but I'm interested to see what major road improvements, whether it's financially and technically advisable to do, speed up and have maybe even a bond issue potentially. And then secondly is downtown revitalization and working with some outside groups to see what we can do and beautify and make the downtown more efficient and attractive.
I think they might be on that list, but
It's probably on there, I think.
yeah.
But that's-
Mike, Les?
Yeah, just to add on what Hal highlighted, I mean, one of the ones is like, I think we've made a commitment to the town about removing the 19 Main Street brown house there. Be good to kind of see that forward. When we acquired the property, we made a commitment to the town to remove that property. It's becoming more of an eyesore and a patch job and more of a liability for the town. You know, and talk to Matt about updating the 41C clause for senior exemptions and stuff like that for homeowners and stuff, just to review it, and as well as I think Matt's done, continue to do the effort on the surplus claims trust. I think that's headed in the right direction. He's done a great job there, and to continue that progress there, as probably well as seeing if we can adopt like other communities such as that around us have done. It's probably looking at like a 55 and older bylaw to incentivize seniors being in our community longer.
And that's by contributing time and manpower and experience to various town programs. Mike?
Nothing to add to the goals, just a comment on the brown house as far as demolition. What needs to happen is you guys just need to see it, push that forward and get it onto the capital project so I can get it into the capital budget process, because it's not on my list at all. So that's something that Keith Brown was here when you bought that thing. Because I remember him asking me about it, and I said, well, it's got asbestos siding on it. So that's over that 2015 or something that you bought that? It was way back then.
No, probably 13, 14. We were promised there was no asbestos in that building.
The whole outside of
Yeah.
it's asbestos. I
So-
can see that riding by. I think
Yeah.
Ray Charles and Steve
Listen.
could have figured that out.
I don't know a thing about water movement. I don't know a thing about asbestos. What do you,
But prices are only going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
It's something that you may want to consider at some point.
and that hole in the roof is only going to get bigger.
That rules out.
Oh, no, they just put a new piece of plywood.
It's a moon
that,
roof
Ralph?
for the
That
raccoons.
rules out a controlled burn for our fire.
Yeah, I know.
practice.
That
Yeah,
was-
unfortunately, the asbestos makes that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No, but if we're going to tear that down, seriously, if we're going to tear that down, we should look at that property as a whole and kind of think about what we want to do with the VFW and the rest of that property, whether we're taking that down or trying to revitalize it for some other use or something like that, so you can roll it into one thing. The only thing I would caution going forward before everybody gets ideas, but we have this highway bond project in our sights that we have to stay focused on, because it's going to be a challenging proposition to do that particular project, so.
I think we should consider what the use of the property where the brown house is now. Is it going to be kept for municipal purposes or?
Well, that's what I was just saying. So we should think that, because you get the brown house and the VFW
Yeah.
and then the access road
Yeah.
to the soccer fields in the back. So it's just
Yeah.
have an overall plan as to
Yeah,
what.
so if we're not keeping it for municipal purposes, maybe we, put it out for bid and let the developer worry about the costs and,
What, the brown house?
yeah.
No, because you only got a little piece of land and that
Well,
ties into,
yeah.
but that ties into our 34
Yeah.
acres that's
Yeah,
in the back.
well-
That's all part of the watershed.
We bought it to
For the
solidify that.
protection?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at one point, the Douglas Youth Soccer approached the board about revitalizing that area once those buildings are down.
Yeah.
They utilize that as
Yeah.
part of their lease.
Yeah.
And more green space for the kids. And putting the fields in and establishing that. It wouldn't cost the taxpayers.
We have extreme growing pains with multiple departments in town, so to try to figure out what the best use of it is all I'm suggesting, is that we take just take a little bit of a step back and
Take everything into consideration.
put all our thoughts together down on paper if we need to. And with the assistance of the town administrator, we could probably come up with a decent idea as to what to move forward with on that piece of property. But that trailer can't stay there forever outside either one of those two departments up on Main Street, so we have to solve both of them. So the hopes is maybe we can get both of them satisfied at the same time.
Yeah. You're right, though, it's been a long time, and that was, that whole makes it that much more
Yeah, it's
interesting.
becoming more of a liability. And they,
Two things on my end. I think this board could probably stand to hear from our department heads more than we do. So I'm going to be hoping to continue or to further that collaborative effort. Sometimes we only see them around budget time, if at all, and for 15 minutes every other Tuesday. I think that's a discussion that we should have, so we'll be looking at that. And the other thing, last thing, a wish list would be the municipal center gym or court and pickleball court is getting a lot of use, and it's, it's on municipal grounds, and it's looking pretty rough. So somewhere along the way with maybe some new revenues that may or may not come in, that we would make an investment in that for the basketball players and the pickleball players, maybe even the wiffle ball players.
Again, that's something that's also could go through the capital process if so desired to do that. So not that capital has a tight budget as it is, and it's a pretty full thing, but we're going to be starting the capital process, and we reevaluate each time. We're actually going to implement the new system with the spreadsheet that Courtney from the school department shared with us last year, to see if we can kind of pull it all together to keep it better organized and make it the responsibility of the departments to compile their own list instead of us trying to keep track of it, because sometimes their assets get replaced and we don't know about it, but it's still on our list.
Since you mentioned the school area and stuff like that, there's also the old school, grammar school, of trying to do something with that. I think Matt's done some additional stuff, and continue that would be always good, because it's one of those situations where, that it's an expensive roof, we have to put another roof on it.
Yeah, put another roof on it. So on that particular building, the challenges is a lot, because whoever's ingenious idea was to cut it off and bring it like 15 feet from the corner of the building wasn't the most advantageous thing for the building. So that's got to be addressed.
Yeah, so the school committee has voted to push that line back.
Yeah.
So now we have to go through the formal process at town meeting
Yeah.
of transferring that from the school department to the select board's control, and then the entire package go out to bid. So it requires a certain amount of patience, because we do have high credibility people who have expressed an interest in the building, but it's our duty to make it a saleable, workable lot before we try to market it. And it's just, the wheels of government turn so slowly, it requires a town meeting stamp of approval.
Can that
So
be
would that
done
be
in a
on
special? or is
the
it-
fall special one?
Yeah.
That is positive movement there.
Yeah, no, he's
Yeah.
got the ball rolling and continue the ball rolling.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So, in terms of this engagement, there's a couple of issues we need to resolve, and one of them is the money was put into the highway department's budget for a working foreman, but we have not hired that position. And the thought was we would have a conversation between the board and the town administrator and the highway department, which currently maintains our buildings and our grounds, of whether or not it would be useful to have a facilities manager and to have that person share responsibilities with the school department. My view probably won't be the most commonly held or popular, but from my perspective, the town of Douglas owns those buildings. The school department is basically a long-term lessee, and they have significant power under the law to use them for educational purposes. But when they're done with them, They're coming back over here,
Such
and
as
they'll
the
be our problem.
And this,
Exactly.
Or the taxpayer will be asked to tear them down to put something new up. But either way, in terms of managing the fisc, we hire a superintendent with a PhD in education and an experienced business manager and special ed coordinator to run the educational programs and deal with children and parents and make it a wonderful educational environment. We don't hire them to do HVAC system design and, conversion to natural gas calculations and all of the things that a facilities manager would do. I'm feeling the pressure because the capital stock of the town needs attention. The special act specifically tasks the town administrator with being responsible for that. But we have so many buildings and there are so many issues and they're kind of outside my bailiwick, right? Corporate strategy guy types don't sit around and, I can project manage, project finance, anything. But it's better to have somebody in the role who is very familiar with building systems, National Grid's programs of incentives for, all the grant money they make available for electrical upgrades and HVAC upgrades. That's the savvy. Now, listen, if that's all I do, I could do it, but I wouldn't be able to do a lot of other things. I think one of the secrets to our success with economic development was finding someone to do the day-to-day so that the town administrator wasn't doing it and could set guidelines and a course without actually having to steer the boat. That's kind of what I need on the facilities management side. The money is in the budget. I've been keeping track of the salaries that have been made available by municipalities for that position, and they are substantial. I think we're in the ballpark. We could probably actually get someone for what we have in the budget for a working foreman. We just have to work out some of the operational details. So I always bring job description to the select board for approval as a starter, but if I got a green light from this board, I would probably begin advertising that position very soon, just because of the nature of the work we have. If we're going to do another round, and it sounds like we are going to do another round of infrastructure and economic development grants, it puts an exclamation point on needing to delegate this to someone who can do it all day. We just have to work out, I think, with the school department, what their expectations would be for supervision and, access and activities
and
on their end.
they wouldn't lose their staff anyways. It would just.
No, they're gonna have all the same
Somebody
people.
that's going to oversee it and keep it organized.
So this isn't being triggered by a retirement over there?
No.
So,
Not directly, no. But I anticipate that within the next X number of years, we might have a retirement there, because it's been mentioned.
but, yeah.
But I think this is I see this as being over that. It's at the level of design, prioritization, building a maintenance plan that other people can implement from their technical capabilities or will outsource. But there needs to be that person whose experience set is around
Has to understand
managing
all
buildings with that many cubic
Has
feet
to
of air and
understand all
all
the
that.
systems and how they work.
Just with the school security cameras, I just find myself frustrated, for instance, I'm not a techie expert on CCTV cameras. I've learned a lot. I think we're going to bring the procurement to a successful conclusion, but it just took 4 or 5 months, when it could have taken 1 or 2, with somebody who was more fluent in that language. But to that point, if we do a facilities manager, then we really should have a facilities plan to prioritize all of this. I think one of the reasons why the tear down of the old house hasn't really even made it through the capital process, we have a recommendation from the Building Facilities Committee to tear it down. We have all of the weight, but when it gets into the scoring process, it doesn't come to the top, because there's any number of public safety or other longstanding needs of the town that just outweigh it. And then there isn't enough crumbs left, because it really would only take crumbs compared to the other things we buy. I kind of feel like we're turning the corner on that, and over the next 2 or 3 years, the capital budget will be pretty flush, and we'll be able to get some of this stuff done. But to me now, we don't like to alarm people, we don't like to send ominous messages or sky is falling stuff. But the old house is a real safety issue. It needs to go because it's an attractive nuisance. And the points that the capital committee scores to it should reflect that opinion. So it's not just a boarded up old house, it's a real mess. And it's only going to get worse. Now that it's open to the elements, it's really going to fall apart fast. So those are two things I think we probably should put on here. Another is, and I hint at it with this concept that all of our hazmat, COOP, all of our planning around emergency management needs to be finished. And I'm happy to say Deputy Chief Manning has really moved the ball forward on some of these. So we're getting some traction. But this is where I think the town administrator's office should be more focused, is on emergency management. First of all, I did a lot of the training, so I'm qualified to sit in the EOC, but every time I turn around, they've added more stuff. Conceptually, several towns have done this in the last couple of years, and it was a result of COVID and some of the things that were learned as part of the COVID response, is that when you hire a town administrator who has all the requisite training and whatnot, that person really ends up being your civil defense director / emergency management director for anything other than the immediate incident. Because who has the authority to do emergency procurement? Your chief procurement officer, which is almost always your town administrator. Who has the day-to-day management authority over all of these people? Well, it's not the fire chief or deputy fire chief, it's the town administrator. So you've seen Rentham and Medway and a number of these other communities name that the town administrator or town manager, the emergency management director, then staff backfills that in sort of a coordinator role, and then they I don't want to say centralize, they actually diffuse the management of emergency communications and the assets needed for emergency management, specifically the radio system in our E911 dispatch and all the rest of it, in a chain of command that goes up to the civil defense director. Knowing full well, again, that the day-to-day management of those things are highly technical and still belongs with a management level person. I am trying to do in Douglas is find a way to bring one of our most talented and dedicated people into that management role to establish some permanency and deep commitment to the town, because the service that we've been rendered to date has been exceptional. We want to promote that person currently in an hourly position into a role where they're directly responsible to both police chief and fire chief for the management of the dispatch function. And then when we fire up the EOC, because we have an emergency, that person is the right-hand person of the emergency management director in terms of getting communication out. If there's anything that we do in these drills that people are so fast now, look at this horrible incident in the last week. How soon was it from the time that this disturbed young man took a shot at the president to the time that we all knew about it on our cell phones was what? 15, 20 seconds, depending on your personal networks and what news you monitor. So when things begin to develop in a municipality, you just got to be on the spot. You've got to be responding. And that's not incident command's job. It's not even the emergency management director's job. But somebody's got to get the best possible information to the public, because the public now, it's even faster than the McDonald's mindset, right? We're not going through a line waiting for a product. We're expecting our information to appear instantaneously on a device. So I think that individual has the capacity to grow significantly professionally to fill that role. And I think it would help streamline our grant application process and keeping all these plans up to date, because now we would have staff that it is their responsibility to nurture these plans and make them work. So that's my personal goal. I don't know if the board is going to agree to that, but I want to put it out there as being a pretty significant investment of my time, because there'd be courses I would have to take so I can check the box and continue to do the things that I would do. I want to comment on this energy plan, because this is another item on this list that has languished, and this is in the long-term goals, bullet number 3. Because I think it requires the direct investment of the town administrator and the select board. And again, you do not have to weigh in on or support or not support a specific vision of the future of the country policy-wise and how we're going to adapt to change, real or not. I don't really want to wade into that conversation with people because I just don't think it's helpful or useful. What I'm going to tell you is, whether we like it or not, people with a tremendous amount of power and a lot of money in government positions are telling us that we have to do X, Y, and Z. And they're going to fund it, and they're not going to fund other stuff. So we need to adapt and find a way to adapt as a community to the changes going on around us so that we can continue to serve our residents with the highest level of service. So if that means we need to have a certain level of energy independence in the form of capturing solar power and battery arrays that's available to us during emergencies, or available to us to stabilize the power supply in this part of the grid, because we have figured out that National Grid does not have a new substation slated for this community in its 50-year plan. So if we think we're going to do all this economic development, and we're going to do all this solar development, and we're going to put all that power somewhere, or take the power off from somewhere, the answer is no, you're not, because you don't have the wires with the capacity to handle what you hope to do to develop the town. So you need some other shoe has to drop. We have to have a plan going forward for how we're going to make sure that these grand plans for electrification actually make sense economically and fiscally. And some of those solutions will be private. We have nothing to do with it. But some of them could be actually handled by a municipality under Massachusetts law to benefit the entire community as ratepayers or as supporters for targeted investments that will make their life a little bit better.
Municipal light plant.
Which is where I'm at, right? So there are any number of communities in Massachusetts, name them, Norwood, Hull, Braintree, Hudson, that have a municipal light and power function that was created back in the day when it was, the municipality would build the power plant and sell the power, own the lines. That's not really what I would envision for this. That's why I want an energy plan. It's just I don't get a lot of traction with CMRPC or anybody else to really do more than just talk at this. Again, I hate studies. The technology is available, the land is available, the access to the power lines is available. What we need is an actual operational plan that will have a meaningful impact, but we could actually effort against. And irregardless of what happens to the climate around us or the world around us, you're building an asset that would generate, honest to God, good, solid value for the residents of the town, because it was done with the forethought to where this energy is going to come from. If everybody else is browning out because they've electrified everything and didn't build enough capacity to handle it, well, we're going to flip a switch, go into an island, cut off the grid, and make sure we have enough power for folks here in town. May not be for long, may only last a week, but at least you would have a bridge. And again, it's just a plan. You're not committing to do anything, you're not spending any money, but you're identifying the possibilities for this stuff. So that's where I'm at with that. We have a huge capacity in this town for solar development, except that we don't have any place to put the power. So that is going to draw a halt to an awful lot of things. And not for nothing, but I'm pretty much sick and tired of the private developers of solar fields. I think they are a bunch of pirates. They mistreat the community. They come, they build something, they disturb everything around it, and then the first thing they do is they sell it to a large banking interest that could care less about the community. So I think if you want to build more solar and have real control over the environmental impact, the stormwater impact, and the use of the power, you might just want to control it yourself. So I was on my soapbox there for a while, but that's what that goal is about. And I'm trying to get the time to do it. But so it doesn't rise to the level of some of the other things that have been on this list. And just so the newly elected members know, this isn't a calendar year annual list. It's designed to run January to December, so that when we get to December and my evaluation comes up, this is a reference point that you can use for the evaluation for the setting of the fiscal, for the budget for the town administrator's office for the following year on the salary line, because you have a contract that has a merit clause. That's why it's there, and that's why I think of all the things that are here, the highest priority for me is finishing this third bullet from the bottom on operations, which is to provide staff. I've already provided staff with their goals and gotten feedback from staff on that list of goals for each department. But I haven't finished in the evaluation matrix for the department heads. If you're familiar with the matrix that you use to evaluate my performance, I'm using the same categories for each of the department heads, but I'm using different weights. Because some of our department heads are right there in the public's eye, and customer service is like paramount over everything. Is what they do. And they don't really spend a lot of time messing with the budget or being concerned about risk management. And then another department will have all of those elements in spades. So I'm trying to build that matrix up. Again, the idea here is to make a foundation. If it's the collective opinion of the select board and the town administrator that the town is running well, it sets your base level of expectations and evaluation foundation for the town administrator. And I've only say this because I guess I'm still angry about it 10 years later. Don't tell me in one breath the town is running great and the budget is awesome and everything else, but you stink. Yeah, no. I might just happen to be very good at what I do, and I'm sick of you because you're dragging your feet. Put it all on a objective basis. So if we say to 3 department heads, you're going to do X, you're going to do Y, and you're going to do Z, and at the end of the year, they say, with the support of the town administrator and everything else, we did X, Y, and Z. Well, what else could we possibly want? Right? Obviously, you want to deliver it with a smile on your face and make people feel good about what they're doing, and not, yelling and making people push rocks up a hill. But at the same time, I just think it's patently unfair. Maybe I'm overweighting past experience, but patently unfair to say that everything is running great, and I just, kick the town administrator around like a soccer ball. No, it's running great because somebody knows what they're doing on the management level and is getting people motivated and applying the resources to the right places so that the work gets done. That ultimately is what you want from the role. You want to look at the entire town's performance and say, people are generally happy. They go into town hall, they get their questions answered. If they have a problem, everybody drops what they're doing, makes an effort to solve it for them. Your tax bill is about as stable as it can be in a Massachusetts community in 2025. That kind of stuff. But again, I'm on my soapbox, but it's very important for us to do this exercise because in the absence of this exercise, it's purely subjective and, has all the markings of, it will just could devolve into something silly. Been there, done that, don't want to do it again.
Good. All right. In respect to the ideas that were floated tonight, we'll maybe sit on that a little bit and maybe work to include 1 or 2 of those into this document.
No, I'm going to include them all. I wrote them down as they came in. I have only 2 quick comments. The demolition has to get through the capital process. So it's not purely the town administrator's effort, it has to be consensus. The 55-plus bylaw, so many town managers, myself included, are loath to get too deeply involved in policy conversations, because there are differences of opinion, and our job isn't to sort those out. Our job is to support decision makers in what they're trying to do. So what would our role be? Our role would be to collect examples of highly successful bylaws, communities that feel like they had the necessary flexibility built into their land use regulations to accommodate this type of development, and to shepherd that bylaw through the process. So make sure it goes to planning in a timely way to get a public hearing and a recommendation for town meeting. The actual contents have to be worked out by the elected and appointed officials of the town. The best thing that, though, the one thing we have to do is be mindful of the schedule, so that the work marches along in a work person-like fashion, so that when you post the warrant, you have a finished product that people have seen and vetted.
One thing to look in, can we hire or can we employ the volunteer services of a senior to administer this program, to oversee their work?
A 55 and over bylaw?
Yeah, or this tax write-off.
Oh, no, that's something the assessor, I've had conversations with Matt and the assessor on it. It's actually going to slowly evolve with Chris' involvements and stuff like that. So talking to Chris about looking at it so it can come before us, so we could probably make the, it's probably spring town meeting.
Yeah, I think we have to sort out on that one.
Yeah.
There are a lot of moving parts. Some of them are already in place in Douglas, some of them are not.
Yeah.
So I think we really need to be detail-oriented
Yeah.
and focused on what it is that we're actually going to be doing that would change. It's within the authority of the statute, but would enhance what we're already doing.
So it's just awareness and stuff like that. But I do like what, Matt did highlight, the facilities manager position. And, there's a benefit to that where it takes the pressure off of him, involvement and stuff like that. But that's access to the other schools and all, assessing the buildings that we have, because as we continue to grow or, maintain the buildings we currently have, it's the ones that we're not maintaining and what we're doing with those. So again, it goes back to the capital, but, I think at one point, a couple years ago, you used to say always, best offense is defense, but, we put too much out there, we're going to be at risk, stuff like that.
Things are changing so quickly. That's, you might have been an expert in HVAC 15 years ago. And if you went into cryonic sleep and woke up now, would you recognize half the technology that's available to you or the pricing structure that's associated with it? The chances are no. And so that's really where we need the help. That there are a lot of pieces of equipment around this town that have been running for 30 years, and they've been kept running through ingenuity and persistence and just grit.
Yep.
And there is a point which even that isn't enough, like, the Terminator's arm crawling across the ground from the movie. That's pretty much where we are with some of this stuff. It's not going to make it, man, just not.
Yeah, the other big change that we had was Adam's advancement in his position.
Yeah.
He no longer has the time to even, he did a very good job while he did it, but he's stretched too thin to be on top of all that stuff. He's got a lot to do.
Yeah. It'd be an opportunity for someone to, in that role, to kind of also look at what energy efficiency and some programs, that there could be opportunities to.
Yeah, I could give you a headache by giving you some repair orders.
Oh, no. It's just-
Believe me, I read them before, and to look at the same thing over and over and over again, it's like, nobody asks a question, but we're going to leave that alone.
Good.
Good stuff.
All right, so you have those, Matt, and some of those are budgetary, maybe they work into your factors of the next budget. Town administrator's report, what do you
I'm not
think?
going to belabor it. We've just been doing a lot of plumbing. That's why you haven't gotten a whole lot of updates from me, because it would be boring. We're trying to close up some grants in order to establish our credibility as in the next round of open grants. So we're trying to bring this road project on Northeast Main and the sewer pump project to a conclusion. We may have something to discuss in executive session, depending on how Rich Bowen comes out on something. So at your next meeting, hopefully not. hopefully everybody plays nice in the sandbox and we just get the punch list done and we'll be all set. But we're kind of at that rubbing point at the end of a major public works project. It pretty much is par for the course. Contractor's looking for retainage. The client said, well, wait a minute, you were supposed to do this in 4 months, it took you 12, right? There's going to be a meeting of the minds at some point. But so we're doing that with those projects. We have relocated most of the obstacles on the roof of this building away from the work. So you will see the roof project here, the contract has been awarded. You'll see that work, I think, begin in the next couple of weeks.
Permits have already been issued.
Permits have been issued. I'm anticipating within the week, we will have a set of plans finalized for the fire station. This will not include any addition. This will simply include the HVAC and electrical upgrades to the existing building.
Which is
That
critical.
will allow us, it will allow us to get rid of the trailers, but it won't be a permanent solution for staff, but it will allow them to move back in.
So allow us to get rid of the ARPA funds.
And that's ARPA funds, right? So that's one of my goals here is to get them out on time, so that's been a front and center project. Another procurement that we're writing down on is the school security cameras. This has nothing to do with the location or security of the building, so I won't talk about it in executive session, I don't need to. We're going through a tedious process. When we use a design tool, we frequently, especially with technical stuff, we'll say, I want a Sony microphone or its equivalent. It's because no product is exactly the same. So you try to find a performance metric, but if you don't have a performance metric, you try to use a design milestone, and then you say, or the equivalent. And when I do these things, I put the burden of demonstrating equivalency on the bidder. So it's not at the town's expense. If the lowest bidder comes in and they have bid an equivalent product, or what they are asserting is equivalent, they must prove it. Not just with cut sheets, but with actual performance in the field. So we will be doing I'm not going to use the term they use, because I don't like it. We're going to be doing a competition between the different manufacturers of cameras, so that we can determine whether the resolution that was desired at a given distance is actually achieved by that camera. So if it says you're going to read a license plate from 100 yards, then it had better be able to do that. We're actually going to bring it to the school, the elementary school, and test it live at the site. If it meets the requirements, we'll be able to let the contract out. This is a big project, so we're pushing $500,000 here. So we got to get this right and make sure that we have the technology that the designer called for in our design. So that's another procurement issue that we're pursuing. Am I forgetting anything that I holler about during the day?
No.
Not really.
Heating fuel bid.
We're going to be putting our heating fuel bid out this month.
How are we progressing with Depot Street? Because that's a pretty large portion of the ARPA funds.
Yeah, so poor Bob Sullivan is one person.
Yep.
He's been trying to give this time,
Yep.
because he's well aware of the deadline. But as I've said before, a lot of the prep work is done.
Right.
So we're looking for Stantec to give us the resources from their bench necessary to get a set of plans in place. That's my understanding of where we are. We should be in a position to bid this out in the fall. We're going to make the deadline, but not by a lot.
Yep. Thank you.
Maybe that's a worthy agenda item, just overall ARPA update.
Put it on the 8/6.
Sure. Yeah. If it's summertime and we need to push that off, that's fine, but.
Yeah, the scope here is really considerable, right? So we're talking about digging up Depot Street,
Yeah.
replacing 100-year-old water lines, bringing a new fire suppression service into this building. Right now, we have our connection doesn't meet code, but it would allow us to fully develop the municipal center for the long term. So we could sprinkler the top floor and be able to utilize the space for really anything allowed under the code, rather than trying to skirt this or skirt that, or appeal this and appeal that. just simply doing what the fire service wants us to do is going to be the fastest way to actually be able to use the building. But then the goal eventually is for that water line to loop down Maple Street and make a connection somewhere to improve the overall quality and longevity of the service, this whole part of town. So it's not a small undertaking. It's as big a project as anything we've done on Gilboa or Northeast Maine.
Yeah,
A little bit less traffic, but a lot of digging and a lot of pipe.
it's amazing the amount of work 5 guys around the table can give you.
You want to give them a couple more minutes?
Yeah. Good. Anything
I
else?
think that's all I can think of at the moment, but it's really all the same theme, right? We're just dotting i's and crossing t's here at the different levels of the process.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. It's
Make a motion to
helpful.
adjourn?
Well, we do have any items not reasonably considered. Seeing none, a motion to adjourn,
Good.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
made by Les, second by Hal, all those in favor?
Aye.